Hello, everybody. It is an honor and pleasure to be with you all today. And you will have the pleasure to listen to very accomplished and impressive panelists. I think the best way to do justice to the impressive backgrounds will be to ask them to introduce themselves. Christine, since you crossed the nice big ocean to be with us today, why don't you start? Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. So, hi, I'm Christine Hsieh. I actually started my career as a PhD trained at MIT in health sciences and then jumped straight into entrepreneurship. I built 2 companies in healthcare technology, mostly in chronic and acute care management. After the second one was acquired, I decided to take some time to give back to the community as an entrepreneur in residence at MIT, as well as doing some investing in a local VC firm. And I've more recently actually jumped over into the corporate side working at AbbVie, which is a pharmaceutical company, and there I'm focusing on bringing digital and AI technologies into oncology development.
Good morning, it's Tomasz Kosinski here. So actually I have over 20 years now in life science. I work in AbbVie actually as well. So catch up later. So at the moment, I'm head of discovery and growth project at Fluidics. Fluidics is first in Central Eastern Europe venture studio, deep tech venture studio that is focusing on the medical diagnostics and healthcare. So we are company builders. So we build startups from scratch, and we then support them to the exit. And maybe a few words about the venture studio, so how it's different from the incubator, accelerators, and VC. So we actually support our project for entire life cycle, so from idea to exit. And as well, we take a full responsibility for actually project success. So we founded from idea and then to exit.
Brilliant, thank you. My name is Mateusz Mądry. I'm a lawyer from GSW law firm. And I'm super excited to be speaking amongst you guys. So my background is that I actually have not that uncommon, rather uncommon perspective. I've been working for 7 years in public administration in regulatory bodies, the English Ministry of Health, Polish Agency for Registration, but most importantly, European Medicines Agency, where I was in-house counsel. I work in a consultancy, obviously, for a number of years. We're advising companies in Central Eastern Europe, but not only, how to enter the market. But I have also very interesting experience because for a number of years I was legal director in one of big pharma companies. I was responsible for ex-US launch of product and regulatory requirements. So this gave me perspective on how to enter the market and how to start building portfolio and helping products to get to the patients actually. When it comes to DZP, we happen to be the largest Polish law firm, which gives us very unique situation. We have plenty of experience and we have capacity to also be open to startup stage. And I have to give big shout out to Maciek Zajda. Maciek, can you please show to everyone? He's standing just right here, and this is the guy you should be interested to speaking to. He created amazing environment for startups. We call it DZP Future, and basically we have a program that's dedicated to startups. We have special rates to startup. We connect startups to investors, and we educate, teach, and basically grow the whole environment. So if you have some ideas, if you need to be connected to investors, if you need to get to the program, this is the guy sitting in front of you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Piotr Orzechowski. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I'm the CEO and founder of a company that was founded in Poland called Infermedica. And Infermedica is a digital health company that helps patients decide what to do when they're feeling unwell. So in other words, probably some of you, when you felt unwell, you went online, maybe you Googled your symptoms sometimes. What we proposed, what we're working on, is actually an AI-based solution, which is clinically validated, certified as a medical device that helps patients to quickly assess their symptoms and advises on what to do next. When it comes to the topic of today's panel, transcending borders in health tech, as a startup, I think there are a few things that apply to us probably. Starting from one person, we are now 160 people located in Poland, US, Germany, so we grew out from Poland. Our tools have been used by over 22 million people worldwide in 24 languages. So we are transcending borders when it comes to our end users. We work with over 100 B2B clients from US, Latin America, Europe, Australia. Of course, there is a lot work ahead of us still. We are early stage startup, I would say. And we also have an international team of VCs. This is very important in what I'm going to share today because we are venture-backed. We have investors from UK, Estonia, Germany, and Poland. So I'm really excited to be here today and looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you all. And I'm Stanislaw Knaflewski, founding partner of Altamira, a deep tech investment firm based in Warsaw. I was also a visiting fellow at MIT Sloan 5 years ago. Let me start with a strong and not so novel proposition. Human health knows no state borders. What follows is that if you, in your companies, identify a problem, an unmet clinical need, you can take it for granted that it is a universal problem and other people know about it. So that's not very interesting. But then you come across a hypothetical solution, a new technology. And an interesting question arises. Does anybody else in the world work on a technology which is essentially identical to yours or possibly superior? Do you care about it? Do you agonize about it? What do you do to check if this is the case? Tomasz, why don't you take it?
Yeah, so maybe I will tell you a bit about our discovery process. So it's actually combined from 3 stages. I will focus on this technology perspective. So before we even start thinking about technology, we actually start, as you mentioned, from the problem and making sure we work on the real global problem or the global need. So we have our own primary market research team that actually all the time making sure that this problem is validated already from a beginning on this kind of global perspective. So we talk very broadly with very broad spectrum of the stakeholders, with the health professional, patients, so the industry experts to make sure that actually the problem we are focusing on the beginning is the right one and ensure that the technology we build around it will be actually addressing the important global need. So once we validate the problem, we actually go for very comprehensive landscape analysis that we look not only on the existing solution, but as well about the emerging technologies and as well the pioneering research to make sure that actually the very broad, let's say, analysis set up in a stage that will be able to identify the gaps or the technologies that will have a significant advantage over the existing one. So at the end of the stage, we come up with the comprehensive list of shortlisted possible technologies that we actually use various criteria to assess. So we look on the things like the patentability, freedom to operate, cost to scale, and various other parameters. And usually we choose 1 or 2 that we think are the most what we call the future-proofed. And this is what we kind of focus on. Sometimes, like I mentioned, we choose more than 1 technology for the proof of concept just to ensure that we actually could do the pivot in the later stage in case we find out that one technology is better than the other. And finally, to assess our choices, we as well work very closely with the key opinion leaders and research institutions to actually validate our hypothesis that we put in the previous stage. And that's, so we spend quite a lot of time on this early stage to make sure we really have the problem solution fit on this early stage to set up for a success of our venture moving forward.
Thank you. Piotr, would you like to follow?
Of course. So first of all, I think that building a digital health, like a software startup or solution, is very difficult. It's so difficult to build something that generates enough uptake among patients, adoptions, health systems, something that somebody can pay for. So we're absolutely in a different domain, in a different space. We do software. And actually, what I've learned over the years is that if somebody's already working on it, it's a very good sign. because it's maybe there's a real problem waiting to be solved. And I don't even think this is so much about being world-leading or original. At the end of the day, it's about solving a real problem, a real business need for somebody, which is like obvious. The same thing, the same principle, in my opinion, that applies to healthcare, applies to any other industry, from gaming to entertainment, science, and so on. And I have to confess that our story, building Infermedica, was very different. We started off as a game. We had no clue how to monetize it. We have no clue how to make it like earn money. We just wanted to make sure we have a playable symptom checking app for patients that they can use and that's engaging. And I think it was a miracle we survived that period. It took us more than 4 years before we generated first revenue as a company. Like through this method of trial and error, I would go to Silicon Valley. I would meet with anybody who wanted to meet with me to have a coffee. And I was like, hey, I'm this poor entrepreneur from Poland. Maybe you can tell me how you build unicorns, how you can apply art. And that's a real story. I slept in a garage next to somebody's car. And I have to tell you that after years of trying, suddenly I met a guy who said, you know what, I don't think what you do can fly in a B2C model. But what you've built, your clinically validated technology is valuable. We can license it from you, and we'll put it inside of our product for hospitals. And this is how, through this method of so-called customer development, we just asked clients or potential clients, what do they want to pay for? We said, yes, we're going to build it, and they paid for it. That's how we iterated, in short. And look, now we have product people, now we have processes for it, but this startup exploration spirit remains in our company.
Christine?
Yeah, I have so many things I could say about this. But playing on just that last answer, I think at the end of the day, and especially at MIT, we always say this, is the customer is kind of the final answer. And so, but at the same time, I will say that in the startup journey, if you don't find a way to put a unique stamp on what you're doing and have that personality or be that game app for a bit, you don't stay in the memory of the people who might matter that you met along the way, such as investors or potential customers, where once you become memorable, you need to develop that relationship over time, because you rarely sell anything in the first 1-2 meetings. And now with my corporate hat on, you may be having like 20 meetings, right, to try to sell into a larger enterprise. And so what I found over the years is that it's going to be a meandering journey. And so it's less, per se, in healthcare, I think, about whether you're doing something truly unique, because most of the problems, I think, are on the business model side. There's plenty of unmet need, right? There's so much unmet need that, 100,000 startups could be trying to do the same thing, and it's going to be the one that has the right relationships, that actually executes the right way with those relationships, I think that will win. But along the way, you don't want to sound like just another startup. You have to show what your unique advantages of working with you might be. Like, what is the unique insights that you're bringing? And then they have a good partner in you to work with you.
Mateusz?
Thank you. So I'll be obviously not sharing from my own experience, but allow me to benchmark this from our clients, our colleagues, and also from my experience working in big pharma when we were testing and speaking to a number of startups. Well, first of all, I think you all know that pharma, biotech, healthcare is high-risk, high-rewards sector. And this is one of the reasons why so much innovation is driven by startups. Because when we're looking at the current paradigm of healthcare system, drug development, and medical devices development, any healthcare technologies development, is that big pharma and big medtech companies are actually looking for target acquisitions because they are not that much interested with current financial opportunities or limitations to bear this risk that was there for 15 or 20 years to develop a number of products and then just hit this one that's going to be a blockbuster. So the whole idea now is that this market is market and acquisition market, because you want to see bright people who are not bound by number of corporate limitations and just driven, passionate about the solutions they're having and trying to get it. So this is high risk, high reward. I think that very, very rarely you would see that you are the only one group of people working on the need that you have identified. In the current world, with all AI development and basically breadth of solution, they're probably going to be numbered, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds. But at the end of the day, this is what my colleagues said. It's the thing which makes you unique. What is your competitive advantage? Remember that, and you all know it, there's so many hurdles down the road. So at the end of the day, it's going to be 1, 2, or maybe 3 that would get to the market. And even if you're not the only one, you always can think about joining your efforts together, and then there's going to be number of people trying to beat on you. So I think it's important to see what the competitive landscape is, but it's more important to know what is your mission, where you're coming from, and what's your grit, because this is the most important thing. However, as a lawyer, if you allow me, I want to address this question from another standpoint, which is, all right, you have idea, right, how to solve some problem. And then you think, all right, but in every jurisdiction, probably laws are completely different, right? What kind of clinical trials I have to make, what kind of regulatory process I have to follow to make sure that I can deliver my solution to patients. I mean, it's going to cost millions, it's going to be so much time consuming. Is it possible, basically, to market my product in Europe, United States, India, China? Because you said the problem is universal, right? So every patient deserves to get my solution if this is really addressing unmet need. And the short answer also, what I learned from point of view of regulator, it's like European Medicines Agency, but also this experience of supervising number of markets, basically all markets in the world, is the simple truth. Data is the data, is the data, is the data. Follow the data. So basically, if you have good, reliable data and they're showing that your technology works, then lawyers would come and help you to put it in proper brackets. Obviously, it's better to have lawyers as soon as possible, try to not go all the way around and coming up with some solutions that are not going to be acceptable. But at the end of the day, there are harmonization efforts by World Health Organizations like ICH initiatives and all of the others. So basically, those regulatory pathways for medical devices and medicinal products happen to be different somehow, but they're more similar than different. Obviously, you need to know peculiarities, but if you focus on good development project and process, you'll be most likely, and the data are sound, they convincing, you have them certified, you'll be most likely in position to market the product in various jurisdictions. If not, at least make some small adjustment and then enter the market. So to summarize, I mean, law is there, it should be followed, but science is something that should be driving you first.
Thank you. This being an MIT event, I feel an urge to ask you all whether you engage academia in assessing and perfecting your technologies and learning about competing technologies. Piotr, why don't you start?
All right, so short answer is no. We never succeeded, I think, in collaborating with academia so far. And I have to say it's because maybe a few reasons. First of all, we have taken on venture funding. You're investors, Staszek, as well. And this already sets some constraints around the IP ownership, you know. And like it was always a rule of thumb in every due diligence, in every subsequent round of funding, that the entire IP that we develop belongs only and solely to the company without any strings attached. Because even this tiny string may decrease the chances of fundraising next round and creates basically risks for future investors. And look, I don't know if that's true. And I'm sure there are great examples of companies that succeeded working with academia, but it was not the case at Infermedica. However, we have built our own, let's say, substitute of research and academia internally, simply commercially. We hire more than 40 medical doctors. We hire more than 10 researchers. We write journal publications. We go to conferences. We make experiments. We evaluate new technology. So we had no other choice. We had to hire those people from academia so they can work for like an IP that is fully owned and retained within the company.
Well, it's interesting and somewhat sad that the first and major hindrance to engaging academia would be legal. So maybe, Mateusz, you would like to comment on your experience in removing that challenge.
Yes, let's remove it. So, obviously, if you're coming with something innovative, there's going to be things you're going to do as a first mover in the market, and it's going to be problems you need to solve. But law is to follow science in this regard. So we chatted briefly before the panel, and we said, listen, in Poland it's this and that. And Christine replied kindly, it's all around the world like that. You have IP challenges all around the world. But to say with one sentence, is it possible, is it impossible to get academia involved and basically get
academia involved and not claiming an IP rights, right?
Yes, it all comes down to, well, you have to make a deal with academia and with scientists. It's easy as that. It's between two groups of people sitting together saying, listen, we're going to need this and this. We want that kind of license. Let's try to develop it together, and it's doable. We know there are examples, even very recent examples in Poland of getting projects like this. So the quick answer is yes, but you ask the question, okay, is law really a roadblocker here? And I would say that law is not a blocker here. It's obviously you need good lawyers to navigate you through them, but there are good lawyers available. But I think the key challenge, and I'm very, very curious to listen from you guys, is actually a mindset, a cultural thing, lack of experience, and let's face it, Poland has history of 30 years in free economy. We do not have huge experience in academia people collaborating with business. Even if they focus on academia benchmarks. Their focus is to get the papers published. They're not thinking that much about viability of this solution. And if they do not have much experience on benchmarking, right? Because they've been working in academia and universities all of the time. So then you need to have savvy entrepreneurs getting together, trying to come up with new things. And this journey is new for everyone. This is where challenge comes from. So to sum up, law is going to be an enabler at some point if the will is there. But the key question is, are you on the same page?
Tomasz, why don't you take it forward?
So my short answer would be yes. I think it's actually, as well, our company was actually set up and have a strong link with, or the roots in academia. I think it is in our DNA, and I have to say, I think that over the years that actually we learn how to do it effectively. So we look especially, I mean, I would say that working with academia is part of our core process of creating the innovation and building on it. And I think, well, if you want to focus on a really innovative solutions, I think this cutting-edge science comes from academia. So I think we don't have any other choices than kind of learn how to effectively start using it. And I think there is a lot of advantage as well in this, let's say, research procedures and routine that is coming from academia as well. So, of course, there are some challenges as well. So I think the biggest one is being that this, let's say, research routine, well, you have to find the right balance between this research routine and actually business pragmatism. So, and I think this is the most challenging part because sometimes, let's say, the academia is thinking in a different pace than actually, and it's in some, to a certain extent as well in a conflict with our, let's say, urgent need to develop the venture. So it's all about finding the right balance. I think our approach, I would summarize and call it, let's say, targeted contracting or targeted collaboration. Or actually, we rather you look to work with the researchers or research groups or the institution in a particular, let's say, which are the domain experts in the area that we are interested in to validate the solutions or the technologies that we come up with. And I think, well, what we learned over those years is that, well, we have to have a very clear milestones and deliverables and really kind of know in advance what we would like to achieve from that collaboration. And I think now, maybe I would just mention that as well, that we are starting, based on our experience, we're starting this fellowship program this year as well, which we are very excited about, which actually we are looking at bringing the PhD students from last year or the postdocs, and we want them to put them in our ecosystem to work with us. So they are some of my colleagues here on the summer around as well. You can look for blue t-shirts if you want to find out more. Because we think it will be a very, very exciting period. And as well, we are running the workshop later today, I think 5:30 in the founder stage. So for sure, we'll be there. So if you have any questions about that program, you can find me or my colleague, and we can discuss it.
Christine?
Yeah, so I think Poland actually has a big opportunity, and I'll tell you why. You know, the US has already made a lot of mistakes, I think, and even places like MIT, right? So you talk about that there isn't as much collaboration here. Well, what happens in the US is that there is the collaboration, but it can be very one-sided. For example, a lot of venture capital may try to come and knock on the lab's doors, and they're presenting really terrible offers of how to fund. And so they try to take advantage of the knowledge gap. And so then it's almost like a brain drain. And now you might ask the question, well, how can we better teach the researchers? So then there's also that cultural shift, as you guys mentioned, the knowledge gap that has to happen. So can you address that in your universities and have more educational bias-free training where it's not just driven by an investor who wants to then take that technology, and I know your firm is not going to try and take advantage, right? But the reality is those incentives exist around the world, and in a culture that still has a chance to shape it, such as Poland, right, you can avoid those kinds of mistakes where there can be a little bit of a degree of separation, where the university has a chance to train the researchers more in entrepreneurial methods, right? And then they have the opportunity to play on a more level playing field with the investors, knowing the worth of their technology, perhaps knowing better what could happen in the market and how that venture could grow. And so better partnerships also between industry and academia, where you can identify potential operators or founder types, if you will, that then come in and really partner truly with the researchers, I think can also help bridge that gap.
You have all worked with cross-border organizations, often also with remote teams or remote team members. What are the key lessons learned in making those organizations successful? What are the challenges that you have faced? What is the evolution that you have seen over the past years, especially post-COVID? Piotr, do you want to start?
Of course. So have been doing that for over 13 years in my company. I have to say, like, before COVID, we were not remote. Now we just live in the cloud. We're a fully remote company by necessity, I would say. I'm not sure if I like it, to be honest. What I can tell you, it's, I think my key observation or thought is it's much harder to build a high-performing team that's distributed geographically and across different cultures. So we have our team based in the US, in Germany, in UK, in Spain, with majority of people based in Poland. And there are so many background expectations, cultures of working and communicating. And of course, we speak English, but Polish English is, of course, slightly different to like a Native American English. And there are some nuances that are simply not caught, let's say. The communication becomes a real challenge. And as we scaled from 1 person to 10 people, 50 people, 100 with remote employees, the performance of the company has dropped. It really deteriorated. We had to really think hard, what can we do to get it back to a shape before COVID, where we are just sitting in one room, one office. And I can tell you the work was much easier back then. And from the CEO perspective, I think the most important thing that, in my opinion, a founder can bring to the organization is a consistent set of values. We often talk about the importance of mission, of a vision, but to me, values define how we want to achieve this vision and mission. I'll just give you an example. Maybe you're saying that your company is, your key value is transparency, right? It's the case in my company. So, you know, as a founder of a scaling organization, you cannot assist in every single decision being made. And then you go on vacation, and what happens is the team, if you have consistent values, will challenge themselves asking, should we do A or B? And at some point, this team will start asking, okay, so we have two choices. We're not sure which way to go. But this option A will yield greater transparency, and we'll go with that. So if you have consistent values, in my opinion, the decision made by the team will be more coherent, more consistent, and will help you scale. So I think this is the foundation for me as the company grows and scales, and I treat values as a sort of an operating system of how people ideally should think despite of cultural changes and communication.
Christine?
Yeah, that is actually one of the things I've been pushing any founders that I coach now on, because I think it's often left behind. When you build a startup, you think it's really all about the market. And to some extent it is, you have to survive. But once you start getting that traction, if you don't instill a way to execute on that vision, which is going to come from the values, you end up getting this kind of, well, I'm just going to hire people who look like me or who act like me, sound like me, and then you get this, it actually doesn't work well because there isn't that North Star on how do you behave to achieve that. Now, rewinding back to my second company, which did operate in Asia, the UK, and the US, I did find, I say I advise on values now because we didn't do a good enough job. And what the problem that was showing up is when you have a huge amount of decentralization, we really had a massive cultural divide. It was really, really difficult. We had HQ, headquarters, in the US, and we had a large operating group in Asia. And there eventually developed a conflict where, you know, the other side was saying, well, you guys don't know what it's like on the ground here. Why are you telling us what to do? And in the meantime, we kind of have the leadership team was in the US. And though we traveled, though we tried to bridge that, we didn't have a way to have the right kind of communication. And so I think values and operating on them is that North Star, but then you also have to find that common ground of communication, I think. I think transparency is one of them, navigating through that conflict with transparent communication. And you certainly can't go wrong with more training on feedback and facilitating communication in really challenging circumstances, because stress runs very high in startups, right? And so it's very easy to just say what you're thinking without holding yourself back. I now work in an enterprise company of 50,000 people, and people probably hold back a little too much sometimes because it can become a little sterile in communication. But you know, around the world, I think it never hurts to have more of that training, more of that trying to come down to being human, really seeing the other human who's talking, right? You never know what's going on. During COVID, we used to have to say, you never know what's happening in that other person's life, right? They could have a relative who's literally in the hospital who can't breathe right now. That was actually happening sometimes, and they wouldn't talk about it, right? And so those are the kinds of stories that would come out during the pandemic, where we would have to take that extra note of grace with our colleagues.
Tomasz?
So in Scope, we actually built a very, let's say, a very broadly interdisciplinary and international team. So, and I personally believe that this is one of the fundamentals for the, well, especially if we're talking about this early stage in creating new products. So I think it supports the creativity a lot. And I believe as well is that if you start with developing ideas in such a, let's say, cross-cultural team, it's already make it to a certain extent as well future-proofed once you start actually globalizing that product sooner or later. And I think all of us, when we work on a new product, has that on mind. Well, regarding probably the biggest challenges of the fundamentals, I can only build off what you said earlier, that actually, to a certain extent, this creating the right culture from the beginning is very important, and actually, and building the trust, because I think in all that collaboration across border, the trust is a very important aspect. And of course, to build the trust, you have to build the transparency, you have to build an open communication, and we put a lot of effort to actually make sure that those values are there, and we build our behaviors around those values. But on top of that as well, and I think this is where we can learn a lot from in startup, from the corporate world, is that we have to make sure as well that the technology is there to support us, because actually it's very difficult to build the trust if your connection keeps dropping. And so it's very important actually when we think about it, and we actually from the beginning start making sure that this minimum enabler is there, so actually the team could focus on what they should be at.
Mateusz?
Well, thank you. So many wise things were said that probably I'm going just to repeat those. And thank you. I really appreciate, because you can witness great leadership here. It's easy to say, great, we can work remotely. It gives us more opportunity. It's brilliant. But the answer is not as easy as that. It's a double-edged sword, actually. It's great opportunity, and it's brilliant to benefit from it. We should be doing so, particularly when we polish. And also we kind of, this is my very confident thing to say, we breached sort of cultural gap with West a couple of years ago. And I've been in a number of discussions with my colleagues from all around the world, United States, United Kingdom, France, Germany, and I was the only one person that I was non-native speaker working in a group of lawyers in the company I worked with. And I didn't feel being treated differently. They looked at Poland as a European country, and they said, yeah, in Poland there are great opportunities. And it wasn't that obvious maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know if you can remember this, guys, but now you are part of this global village, and we definitely are beneficiary of this. So it's good. It's good to work in global setting and benefit from this remote working, but I couldn't agree more about those cultural differences. Anyone who worked in international environments is going to tell you that this might be a key factor. And we also, in our law firms, and my belief is that in majority of law firms, all in the United States, in Magic Circle, there was those discussions. Shall we let our offices go if all we're doing, we're going to clients and we're drafting memos? You do not need to be in the office for that, right? You go to the client, then you have sitting in the front of computer. Why do you need to be in the office? But we also notice, and the whole industry as such noticed, that efficiencies is going down. And if you want to be competitive, sometimes 2%, 5% different on the outcome matters. And quality, maybe this 1% of the quality discussions is going to save the client from winning the case than losing it. So most of law firms are basically coming back to the office. We still benefit from remote type of working. You can do so. You should be taking advantage from this. But if you are on the verge of your career, I would say, if I can share that kind of advice, and you're thinking, what should I go for? If I have exciting option, but I'm going to work remotely, or then I'm having inspiring boss, and he's based the same city that I am, and I'm going to work with him on daily basis, I would go for the latter option, because it gives you better quality of interactions, it's going to teach you better, and actually going then to work remotely in large-scale organizations, it requires, in my opinion, some level of maturity and independence. You need to know what you're doing, because then at the end of the day, lots of discussions are going to be about these cultural differences. I mean, majority of discussions, believe it or not, when it comes, for instance, about some promotional or education message that we were to put to patients in Europe, and those were coming from United States and were not that different in the content, but we spent months discussing about cultural things. It's saying, listen, in Europe, it's not really going to sit well with these people. And colleagues from the United States were saying, what are you saying about it? It lends perfectly well with our guys. We've tested it. It's amazing. We know it's amazing, but so it was like back and forth. So to sum up, I think it's great we're having those tools. We should benefit from them, but I don't think that you can overvalue importance of human-to-human interactions, sitting in the same room, and do you know what? Discussing things over a coffee, and then in the kitchen and saying, oh, wow, yeah, let's do it, and getting same energy from each other.
Thank you. These days, no matter what conference you attend, you will always get the question, how do you use AI in your business? So I will not spare you this trivial question, but perhaps you can offer some non-trivial answers. So the question is AI central, fundamental to your organization, or it's merely a tool like other software? Christine, why don't you start?
Well, I think what really you have to do now is have an AI answer, because probably now everyone's going to ask you, do you use AI? How do you use it? So whether you actually consider yourself an AI company, or you call yourself AI first, or you really just use it for some workflow thing that's off the shelf and it's not really, you should have an answer for how you're using it, because it would be somewhat irresponsible to not try to leverage it now. There's just simply too many tools that have come out that can actually improve productivity, even if it's as trivial as communication, right? You should be using it somehow. But that doesn't mean, people ask, well, should I call myself an AI company because I can get funding more easily? I mean, there's actually a danger to that, because you can just be called on it, right? You say, well, that's not really AI. And then you get into, focus on what you're good at, right? Still stay true to what is your differentiator, what is the deep science that you've developed, what's your actual true company strength and founder strength. But I think you have to do your homework, regardless of all the noise going on. It's like, what is your strategy over the next 6 months? Maybe what's the longer term roadmap over 2 years? And just get clear on that, because everyone's going to ask that question right now.
Tomasz?
So the short answer is yes. But I think in our company, we could say we look at it on 2 levels. So the operational and actually the product level. So of course, when we develop the new products, now it's difficult to imagine AI not being there, and we build and expand those on it. But in the operational level as well, we try to build it in our processes on day-to-day activities. I think the change, or maybe the shift from the beginning, we were just the enthusiasts. Now we are enthusiasm, but we have some processes in place as well. And I think the shift was more towards what we see now, that we are thinking as well about, will it give us a return on investment? So is it really adding value? And the other shift I see now as well, that we are thinking or prioritizing those use cases that more expanding our capability rather than simply automating the processes. Because this is where we see the real value of the AI.
Mateusz?
Well, the AI is at different level every day. So I think that whatever I say today is going to be slightly different tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. But the quick answer is obviously there is huge potential for transformation lawyers' work in AI. And it's not a discussion, are you going to use AI? It's a matter of how you're going to use AI. But at the end of the day, and we have those discussions that are very philosophical very often. Okay, would you need a lawyer if you can basically ask AI? They know by heart every case law, right? And I'm a human, I'm probably going to forget something. But at the end of the day, we're not only about reading provisions and telling you what it means, we're also about advising clients, and this requires this human experience that is multifactorial. So we of course using AI, but still there's plenty for us to do as lawyers, and I think it's going to be like that.
Piotr?
Yes, of course. So we build an AI product. So we build our own models. We use frontier models as well. So this is first layer. But the second layer is how we do it. So of course, we have to employ AI to help the company run more efficiently on all layers. So software engineers obviously use AI in code development assistance, our sales, customer success. Our legal teams also use AI. Look, I really can't imagine not using this technology today to make your business more effective.
Thank you so much. Great panel. We have 45 seconds to go, and I thought of an unscripted question to connect with especially young people in the audience. A lot of young people are drawn to careers in medicine and healthcare by the desire to cure ill people, to save human lives. And then you get carried away by deadlines, KPI, making money for your investors. Do you, in your everyday life, reconnect with the guiding principle of saving human lives, Christine?
I mean, I think I'm privileged now because I work in a company that literally makes medicine to save lives. So, yes, I mean, I think, 20 years into your career, you will regret it if you didn't align with a true purpose. And ultimately, you want to find the deep purpose you have to guide your career.
Tomasz?
I can only support that. So yeah, we are very much a value-driven company, and I think this is in our DNA as well. So, and spending 20 years in life science, I cannot imagine a more value-added job.
Mateusz?
Yes, and we quite often feel that impact is tangible because we get help medicines to actual patients very often, not only as a group of medicines, but also in some emergency situation. And we know that we help save people's life. We're only a small tool within the whole machinery, but the purpose is very important here.
Thank you. Piotr?
Our users reach out to us and say that we probably saved their life.
Thank you so much. Thank you.